morning, good evening, and wherever the sun may find you. My name is Walt, and this is Coffee and Concepts on Keystroke Medium. Oh, what a night. It feels nice to sit down with a nice cup of coffee. I have my trusty squirt bottle for when the cat comes and tries to jump in my lap. All is right with the world. So what's going on with you guys? As far as a little coffee and concepts this morning, I thought we would talk about a very important topic. And that topic just happens to be grinding. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell are you talking about? Well, certain grinds on certain types of coffee. Morning, big man. We have William Joseph Roberts signing in from YouTube, and he's saying, as for what's up with him, curry for breakfast. Dude, you had me at curry. So we're going to talk about grinds this morning. Now, some people, oh, Lauren signing in from Facebook. I can't show her comment up on the screen because Facebook has kicked me out of the official Keystroke Medium group for some reason, and I cannot connect it to StreamYard because it's been that kind of night. Good morning, Lauren. So grinding coffee is for certain types of roasts and certain types of ways that coffee is brewed. Rick Partlow saying hi. Good morning, Rick. So having these different types of grinds as far as what you're going to use it for is kind of important because you don't want to create, you don't want to try and grind a certain type of coffee and then put it into your preferred brewing method only to find out that the coarseness of the coffee is too fine and it goes through the medium that you're trying to brew it through, or it's ground too gritty, so it's extra coarse, so it's not yielding enough of the oils in the coffee that gives it its flavor. Lauren says, editing Things They Carried Meet Zombies Apocalypse manuscript. Love it. So what you want to do is you want to first, if you're going to be grinding your own coffee, and the reason that you would do that is because you want some control over how much of the coffee you're going to be getting through however it is you're filtering or cooking it. So you can get a simple coffee grinder. William Joseph Roberts saying, bypass all of that and just run it through an old school percolator. Like I said, you want to grind your own coffee because you want some control over the coarseness and how much of the essential oils in the coffee is going to be released. Not essential oils, but some of the coffee oils that is going to be released into the flavor of the water that you're passing through it. And in doing so, you can get a simple coffee grinder. I mean, you could run on Amazon right now and get one for as low as like $15. It might only grind 30, 40 pieces of coffee before you end up needing to buy another one. But I mean, I've had the one I have, I paid about $30 for it, and I've had it for 5-6 years now, so I've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. We got William Tyler Davis saying, I got some flavored ground coffee from my local shop, and it's a little too fine for the French press, but it still gets the flavor better than a coffee maker. I'm glad you mentioned the French press, William, if I may call you William. And because the French press is one of the ways that, grinding coffee, you really want to have control over those grinds and what you're putting it through. And like, for example, right? So we start off with our extra coarse. Okay, extra coarse is really good for a cold brew. So if you're going to be running, iced chilled water through your coffee grounds and or making coffee that will be chilled later, this is the way to go. Extra coarse, right? So what might be extra coarse? This right here in the middle of all of these coffee beans, this is pretty much extra coarse. If you're looking for that kind of thing, this is going to give you the right kind of flavor through the water that you're looking for. Next is going to be coarse. So this is going to be your French press, just like William was talking about, your regular percolator coffee. This is the kind of stuff that you want. And if you look at this picture, all the way on the left, this would be coarse coffee. So it's the kind of stuff you're going to be putting kind of through not really your drip coffee maker, but even something as you kind of get away with a pour over on that. Next, you're looking for like a medium. This is going to be a little more fine than what we have here on the left. So it's going to look less like crystals and more like sand for those listening at home. And those are going to be for like your cone-shaped or your filtered pour over, drip coffee machines, all kinds of stuff like that. Next is going to be a fine, and fine is going to look almost like a gritty powder. It's going to have it's going to look more like sugar, or blackened sugar when you're cooking it. So, or when you're adding it into the thing, it's going to have almost like when you press down on it, it's going to have like a powdery look to it. This is going to be stuff that you're going to make like espresso with, stuff like that. Then you got extra fine. Now, you don't usually see extra fine in most American coffees. Extra fine is going to be powder. It's going to look almost like blackened powder sugar. And extra fine coffee is usually used in stuff like Turkish coffee, which we covered last week in our Coffee and Concepts. And Turkish coffee is made without a filter. You're basically putting the coffee into the cooking method, which is usually like a brass, a brass decanter that goes right over the flame or on the stove, and the coffee is cooked like that, and the powdered coffee remains at the bottom of the cup once it's poured. So it becomes like a grit at the bottom that's really not going to get past your lips and through your teeth. So that's kind of like the coarse on coarseness, and how we grind up things so that we can make them for different types of brewing methods. So in keeping with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the way you grind out your reading. And as a reader, we seem to find less and less time to read in our day-to-day lives, and been tons of studies to show that reading boosts creativity. It definitely boosts vocabulary. I mean, you're not going to be hanging out on a job site in the middle of working the high steel or something weird like that, and start saying words like facilitation, or prestidigitation, all of the tations. You're not going to get as into the weeds as that, but as far as being well spoken, better vocabulary. I can't tell you how many times you turn on Facebook and you got somebody throwing a meme or a screenshot of somebody's text messages, and you see Tryna. I'm not trying to do whatever. And it's like, oh my God, Tryna, that's not the kind of reading you want to get into. So how do we make more time for reading, right? Number one, if you have an itch to jump on social media for 5 minutes, instead flip to your favorite app, pull your paperback out of your pocket. If you have like a backpack or you carry a briefcase and you got a book in there, pull that out. It's going to be more satisfying. You might learn something, especially if you're checking out history or during lunch last night on shift, we had one of the guys that I work with, huge history buff, and we were talking about Audie Murphy. One of his relatives knows or had their grandfather knew Audie Murphy and had gone to basic training with him, and that was cool to have that discussion with somebody who had read about somebody as with such an auspicious career in the military as Audie Murphy did, and some of the accomplishments and things that he did. But like I said, so reading more satisfying than social media. Might learn something. You're definitely going to get more out of it than just the random memes and hate and vitriol. Hey, vitriol. There's a word I learned by reading. You're going to get a lot more out of it than you're going to get just by going through the images that you're just thumbing through, across that screen. So more reading, have a cross-platform app. Kindle, great for that kind of thing. Tablet, phone, what have you, e-reader. Libby, same thing. Libby, if you don't know, my wife is huge into Libby right now. It's a library app. Libby allows you to, through your local library, check out digital books and media. Actually, on the writer's journey, one of the guests that Lauren and Kayleen had was talking about Libby and how some of the publishing houses are using it now to push authors out to a wider audience. These allow for pop reading. It's you're hanging out waiting for the bus. You called Uber after you were out with your friends and you got a few minutes. You're on lunch at the work site. You pull it out of where, you pull your phone out and instead of hitting those keys for something else, grab a few pages. It's having a cross-platform app allows you to have access to that library no matter where and no matter when, and gives you choices as well. So you got the vacation from that job, right? So instead of reading on the phone, you pull out, say, your digital reader, and now you got a bigger, better, brighter experience. So you might remember those pages a little more. Now we had William Joseph Roberts on YouTube saying that audiobooks. Right? Definitely audiobooks is a way to get in more. Dipping your toe into audio allows for that reading that's on the go or on the run. Make sure that you really want to tailor your listen to what you're doing. I mean, if you're just mowing the lawn and it's something you've done 100 times, you got one of those cool riding mowers, my grandfather used to have, and, we used to burn our legs on the little exhaust pipe trying to sit on there with him. Or, you got that walking mower fully powered and you just, thrum that thing together and you walk the same pattern around that lawn all the time. It's cool for pretty much any book that you want to read to go through that kind of by rote thing that you're doing while you're listening. If you're going to be doing something more involved where you might be splitting your attention between the book and what you're doing, not necessarily like running or something like that, because that's still, as long as you're not running in a heavily trafficked area, but with something with more concentration, you're on your work site, you're driving, you're doing whatever. It might make more sense to do something a little more light, more fun, something where the details might not need to be recalled as crisp and as clear later on, because you might be splitting your attention. So having multiple books and audiobooks so that you can jump back and forth and tailor that listening experience to, how and when, especially you're listening to it, is probably a good idea. William Joseph Roberts again, hitting us with some sage advice. I listen to books all day while doing the job, and I'm wondering, we got another point to get into real quick. So while you're listening on the job, is it light, fun reading? Is it something that's involved? Can you split your attention and read at the same time? Send us a comment below. And last but not least, reading as a way to unwind after a day is really, really, really excellent. There have been multiple studies showing that reading is a great way to unwind right before bed. It's a great way to mitigate stress. Your ability to have that escapism as you're reading kind of helps you relax a little bit, mitigates the stress of the day. You're no longer thinking about those things that were bothering you. Instead, now you're focusing on the story. That stress relief allows you to help relax, helps you get into that deeper sleep. It has been shown that by multiple studies that reading builds creativity. It starts accessing centers of the brain that really sharpens up and allows you to think creatively. And doing that before bed might lead to better dreams. I don't know. I haven't seen any studies on that, but I mean, you're already accessing creative centers of the brain, and as you're trying to relax and go to sleep, who knows? Maybe you get some fun stuff going on in your subconscious. But reading right before bed is just a really great way to absorb the information and get into that more restful sleep, more than reading Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, because some of those things might trigger the wrong side of the brain that starts waking you back up, making it a little bit harder to sleep. So yeah, shut off one screen, or switch over to the screen that helps you in that creative center of the brain, rather than the attacking memes. Joaquim Oliveira on Facebook saying, I can't get into my sleeping mode before watching some TV. Seinfeld, The Office, X-Files, and Lost are my go-to, and reading a bit. I always get better dreams after reading. I always get better dreams after reading my paycheck filled with OT pay. Right on, man. Right on. Joaquim's got one of those essential jobs that you've been hearing all over the interwebs. He's a healthcare professional, and we really appreciate a lot of the stuff that he does for his community, and love the fact that he's so interactive with Keystroke. So good morning. So reading, find some time for reading. You don't have to sit there and blow through an hour, and you can do a couple of pages at a time when you have the time, and you'd be surprised how many books you'll get through when that's all said and done. Speaking of said and done, this has gone way longer than I should have, and I really need to get to bed. Keystroke Medium is live on Monday mornings at, I believe it's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with Josh, Scott, and Chuck. They do their roundtables. They get into thoughtful discussions. This past week, they were doing some whiteboarding, which I just listened to the episode, and man, I want to get into Crystal Gem fantasy. Obviously, Coffee and Concepts, 7:30-ish on Tuesdays, especially when we coming up toward the holidays. Writer's Journey with Kayleen and Lauren on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Josh Gayu is doing long-form storytelling on YouTube and Facebook, where you get deep into the weeds with multiple authors across multiple genres, really engaging in those subjects. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today. And if you've got a favorite coffee grind and way to do it, put it in the comments below. Would love to hear how you guys are preparing your coffee. In fact, if you're going to be doing Facebook instead of reading like you should be, throw some pictures of that favorite coffee grind and how you brew it in the comments. We'd love to see that. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's going to take us to the next level, getting you even more content with better access to creators and God knows what else the crazy guys who run the kingdom are going to do once they have that 1,000 subscribers. But wouldn't it be fun to find out? So go over to YouTube, hit like and subscribe. Thank you very much for sharing your coffee with me today. And with that, we're going to bounce as soon as I can find the bounce button. There